Okay, everybody. Well, welcome in to our information session on Japan. My name is Michael Bennett, co-founder of ExplorerX. I know many of you, some of you are new to us. So, to all of you, welcome and thank you so much for taking time out of your inevitably busy schedules to hang out with me and Kelly and Shannon tonight. Um, for those of you that are new to ExplorerX, I know some of you have already traveled with us. Awesome. Thank you for doing that. We are a small Seattle-based travel design company that focuses on super immersive travel experiences handcrafted just for you that really connect you deeply and meaningfully to the culture, the people, the food, the history of the places that you visit. Um, I'll stop there. I could go on for hours. You'll learn more on our website, explorer-x.com. If you have any questions, you want to reach out to us, you can simply send us an email to hello@explorer-x.com. Um, Couple of housekeeping notes before I hand it over to Kelly and Shannon for tonight. As you may have seen, this is being recorded, so be on your best behavior. It will be documented, so just keep that in mind. If you do have any questions throughout while Shannon and Kelly are chatting, you can literally just raise your hand, and we can kind of flag you when they're finished speaking. You can put a question in the chat, and I think there might even be a little hand raise function at the bottom of the Zoom feature here that you can literally just do a little electronic hand raise, and we'll get to you when there's a break in the action. Um, and then finally, when you are not asking a question, just we ask that you please put yourself on mute so we can make sure that there's no background noise and we can hear everything that Kelly and Shannon are sharing with us. Kelly, did I miss anything?
Nope, I don't think so.
Fantastic. Okay,
Nailed it.
great. First time for everything, right? Um, all right, so I'm going to hand it over now to Kelly. Kelly Studer is one of our incredible travel designers based in Asheville, North Carolina. She's done a lot of our Japan travel design and recently just came back from a 11-day trip to Japan in March. And Kelly's joined by Shannon Walker. Shannon is our local in-country colleague and team member in Japan right now, and we work very closely with Shannon and his colleagues in planning all of our travel experiences in Japan. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kelly.
Thank you so much. So yes, as Michael mentioned, I was recently on a trip to Japan with Shannon and his team. They put together this incredible trip to experience Japan in a way I had never experienced Japan before, and I had been many times before, but only to Tokyo and Kyoto. And this time I went much farther afield than that, and I have to say that was probably some of my favorite, most amazing parts of the trip. And all that I learned by spending a lot of time with Shannon and his colleagues and asking a million questions. And it was um, it was like a master class in learning about Japan and traveling and planning travel to Japan. So um, there was this moment that there were a lot of moments that stuck out to me, but there was this one moment where I had reservations at a restaurant, and I go to the restaurant and I walk in, and there's downstairs and an upstairs, and downstairs there's this like counter seating, and there's people cooking in the middle, and it's all the action. It's really exciting, and there's all these noises and amazing smells, and they say, "Do you have a reservation?" I say yes, and I give them my name, and they're like, "Okay, go upstairs." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I go upstairs and I get put at this quiet table in the corner. It's very quiet and very kind of private and away from other people. And I at first thought, oh, they maybe it's because I'm American and they wanted to like put me away in the corner or something. And but at any rate, I had a really wonderful meal. And it was only later that I realized that I basically got one of the best tables in the place, because in Japanese culture, peace and harmony and calm are so highly valued that having a peaceful, quiet, private space to enjoy your food is like kind of like the highest thing that you want. It's like the counter or the cheap seats, if you will. And they were really trying to give me the best experience. And it really struck me in that moment when I learned that everything that I know and think of as a Westerner is just so different in Japan. And it was just like over and over again, I was learning all these differences. And it was quite spectacular as a travel experience to, day in and day out, experience a culture that is almost like a 180 from our Western culture. And there's so much about it that is to be revered and respected and to learn from and to take home with you. And so that is one of the reasons that I really love traveling to Japan, but in particular, planning trips for other people to go to Japan. But of course, you can also imagine that it is challenging to plan a trip to Japan when, the way we think and the way we plan trips is doesn't really work the same way in Japan. Everything is quite different. So anyway, we'll get into that in a little bit, but I just wanted to say, like today, this info session is not a sales pitch. It's just a conversation starter. And I'm here to give you enough to know, Shannon and I are here to give you enough to know about whether Japan is right for you right now and how to think about it. So Shannon, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kelly. Yeah, I really understood that moment where the penny drops, like, oh, now I see why they put me in that in that room upstairs. So lots of those sort of moments happen in Japan. So a little bit about myself. For those of you right away, my accent, probably wondering where I'm from, New Zealand, down under. And I've been in Japan. I just realized 2026 now, it's coming up 30 years. So yeah, it's my I no longer say it's my second home, it's now my first home. I think I've lived longer in Japan than I have in New Zealand. So it's an amazing country. Coming from New Zealand, we're down in the Pacific, but there's a lot of similarities I find in terms of geography of Japan and New Zealand, both long, skinny island countries. And I've made this place my home, and it continues to. And what I find so fascinating about Japan, no matter how long I live here, there's still moments of wonder, moments of like, wow, I didn't know that. There's always something new to discover and find out. So it's definitely a fascinating country, and I love to share, a lot of the people I've met in my journeys around Japan, and work with Callie and her colleagues at ExploreX on how we can facilitate those interactions and get people a little bit deeper off the beaten track into especially rural Japan. I love adventure. I love walking, hiking, cycling, jumping in the kayaks and paddling. That sort of, through those modalities, getting out and meeting people. I think it's a really great way to discover Japan. So anyway, that's just a small snapshot about myself, and yeah, I'll hand it back to you, Kelly.
Yeah, thank you. And how Shannon and I work together, and Michael and anyone from Explore X is, as we're serving as Explore X as travel designers as the like single point of contact with people we plan trips for and with. And then Shannon and I and his colleagues, like we go deep down with all the information that we gather about our clients and what they're looking for and who they are. And then we kind of like sculpt together what we think is like the ideal trip. And with Shannon having all this knowledge and access and insider knowledge, it just really brings it all together. And that's what makes it such a joy to do this together. And then obviously we support people while they're traveling in country at the time, so you don't have to think about logistics and details and plans changing. We're kind of able to manage all that in the background and with you as you go. So I don't know if you would add anything to that, Shannon.
Yeah, I mean it's so important that whole communication process and just working really closely with you, Kelly. It's a joy because you get a really good understanding of your guests, and it helps us to like really put together a trip that meets what they're looking for. If they're into food, if they're into art, if they're active, not so active, first time to Japan, you kind of want to hit the highlights, but also get off the beaten track a little bit. So just really understanding that sort of what's gonna talk to them and make a compelling journey for them. It's always a pleasure to work with you.
Yeah, likewise. So I would love to know a little bit about the people who are on the call, and I'm just going to ask a few questions. So I'll ask a question and then just wave your hand if it applies to you. So my first question is like, who's been to Japan before? Let's hear. There's a few people who aren't on video, so okay. Jaime, Catherine. Catherine, you have been. Well, I actually know both Catherines have been before, but we can't see one of them.
Yeah.
And Rogers, you didn't even raise your hand.
It's given.
Rogers raised his hand,
Rebecca,
his virtual hand.
Virtual hand.
Yeah,
Okay.
there you go. There he goes again.
Okay, so let's see. Jaime, maybe you can unmute and tell us, if you will, like, when did you go? Where have you been? How long were you there? And maybe one word you describe your experience in Japan.
Um, it was in 92. I was there for a 4-month business trip. So I basically was in Tokyo, and I just recall without all the gadgets, when I decided to walk around town, how confusing it was, but I love that exploring aspect of it. I didn't venture out too much. I think I went to Kamakura. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, Kamakura down by the
Kamakura.
coast. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Mm.
I remember going with a work colleague there one weekend. Um, I loved it, right? It was interesting. I spent, 3 or 4 months there on a business trip, but I had an opportunity to eat some good food, explore Tokyo, went out once or twice, like I just mentioned, but I'm looking forward to going back with Allison. So, and doing a lot more now that I'm older and can sort of do that sort of stuff.
Great.
Well,
Thanks for sharing.
1992, you said that's when Japan had just sort of crested at its economic bubble period. Would have been quite a different vibe in Tokyo at the time. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's yeah, I'd love to take you back. And Kamakura is beautiful. We was just up there last week. It's yeah, it's sometimes when you do a trip back to Japan, you haven't been there. There's been a big gap. It's nice to sort of revisit some of those areas and bring back memories or see what's changed, what hasn't changed.
How I feel.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kelly, Rebecca said she was in Tokyo when she was 8.
Oh, so I'm sure it'll be very different to go back now as an adult.
Over 40 years ago. Yeah, it was a very quick trip. We were visiting family in the Philippines and we just popped into Tokyo for maybe a day and a half. So, but I remember it leaving such an impression on me. It was so magical, like the lights and the energy of it. And I've always wanted to go back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So who's never been, but it's on your wish list? Anyone waving their hand? Sarah?
Yeah, for sure. It's on my list, as is most countries and most experiences. I think I'm in a little bit of a unique position, and Michael knows that my husband Corey and I are frequent flyers of Explorer X. So
Good to see you, Sarah.
so my husband Corey speaks Japanese. He's a linguist and has friends who are Japanese and has been to Japan 4 times, been there, lived there, immersed himself, with his friends. And I've never been. I'm the Africa traveler, and he's more of the Asia traveler. So for me, it's going to be a unique experience to try to meld our two experiences, myself who've never been and him who has been, pretty frequently over the years. So, and I think that would make a very interesting trip because he's been and he's immersed, but he's not, but some of the more touristy things he actually hasn't done. So I think
Mm.
it's going to be an interesting challenge to solve for our kind of dynamic situation. But I'm here for it, and yeah, and we're pretty adventurous travelers, so.
Yeah. Well, and how
So for
great to
those
have
that don't know,
somebody who speaks Japanese.
I know.
Sarah and Corey did a Destination Unknown 2 years ago. So they
Ah,
are
and where
quite
did
adventurous.
I love that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we're here for it. So yeah, we're here for the adventure. I mean, we do love the unknown. We do love just kind of being thrown into it and seeing kind of how things evolve and where they evolve and with whom. Uh, yeah, so I'm very excited for that. We recently got back from the Philippines and from Indonesia, so we're not unfamiliar with the Asian continent, but again, I think it's going to be an interesting challenge and experience to kind of meld the two together.
Mm, I love those kind of challenges.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
Shannon? We love those.
Yeah.
It's a fun
Yeah.
problem, right? It's a fun
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, yeah.
I love when we
Um,
get the brief for a destination unknown where it's just like, all right, we can really plan some really cool stuff, just really let the creative juices flow. It's great.
Yeah. Well, I
mhm.
mean, Michael's helped us, we've hung out with Kiwis as well, uh, in New Zealand on the South Island. So we
Well,
definitely,
Corey's a cold weather guy, so we'll have to take him up north.
he definitely
Mm.
is. Yeah. He hates the humidity of Japan proper. So
Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, being in June now. It's just come into rainy season here in Japan, so it's like the humidity's cranking up quite a lot. So it's not too bad yet, but yeah, come July, August, gets
mhm.
pretty warm here.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, all right. Well, is there anyone here who has tried to plan a trip to Japan or is currently planning a trip to Japan and maybe's hit a wall or gotten frustrated? Is anyone in that boat? No. Okay. Well, that's good. That's good. Um, okay, good. Well, uh, one thing I really want to say is that it's honestly never been a better time to visit Japan, and there are a number of reasons for that. Maybe some of you know, maybe some of you don't, but especially for us Americans on the call, with all the geopolitical excitement that's going on in the world, you know, Japan is so welcoming to Americans and to Westerners and to all people, honestly, and it's so refreshing to go to a place where you just feel welcome and invited and they're so warm and gracious and so that's a plus. I don't know if you would say anything about that, Shannon, if there's anything you'd add to that about the Japanese welcoming everybody.
Yeah, definitely. And not only welcoming, but Japan's such a safe place. I think especially for people with families and that, it's just such an easy, and I just take for granted all the time. I never lock my front door. Um, it's a safe place to visit. And the welcoming side, the concept of omotenashi, is a great idea. It's a great showcase of what that means. And it's not sort of like someone, in your face all the time trying to help you out and like at a hotel. It's a very reserved way. And there's almost like a role play of if you're staying at a ryokan where as a guest and the host, there's certain rules or this etiquette that and then that's our job to sort of help people through that path so that we can navigate that sort of thing, so you really enjoy the experience. So yeah, going back to your point, everyone's is very welcome, and Japan is, as a destination, it is a hot destination at the moment for a number of things that I think you'll talk to, Kelly. But it's increased a lot. Like when I back in the mid 2000s, I used to um, work for a publication showcasing Japan's great outdoors and stuff. And it was so hard to get people to think, oh, Japan. No one goes. People just go to Japan for business. Like it's not a place you go for a holiday. That was the sort of the mindset. But that's a big shift in the last sort of 15 years. So and there's a number of factors to that. But yeah, very very welcoming. I always feel welcome here, and so
Yeah.
do I guess.
Yeah, well, I think the exchange rate obviously has had a big impact and changed things. You know, just 15 years ago, it was absolutely brutal to
Mm.
go to Japan from an expense standpoint, with the yen being so strong against the dollar. And so right now, it's basically the friendliest. It's been like dollar friendly anyway for 36 years. Now, of course, that could change. Japan's really trying to prop up the yen, and that could start to shift, but it's making it so much more accessible to enjoy. And man, is it a place to enjoy? So it is really a great time to go. I wanted to tell this like really quick story. Everyone kind of sort of knows how safe it is, but it's also just like the small things. I went to get in a taxi, and it happened to be the Tokyo Marathon day. So there were all these detours, with all the runners, and the taxis couldn't get through and across to different places as easily. So we were trying to get from the train station to our hotel, and we had this lovely taxi cab driver, and we are on our journey, and he had to kind of figure out how to get to our hotel in a different way, and he missed a turn at one point, and he apologized profusely, and then when we got to our destination, he's like, let me take money off of what you owe me because of my mistake. And it's just not something we're used to. We're kind of always thinking like, am I going to get ripped off? Is this the real price? What can I trust? And it's like, you don't have to even think about that in Japan. There's this like integrity around, it is what it is. We will honor at the highest integrity and do the right thing. And it feels so good to travel somewhere like that, just no questions. Um, so actually, you brought up humidity, and we talked about cold weather. Shannon, do you want to talk a little bit about the seasonal diversity in Japan? Because I don't think that many people know how diverse it is and when to go to have what kinds of experiences. Do you want to share about that?
Sure. Obviously, yeah, four distinct seasons. However, if we break it down, there's probably almost each month has its own sort of distinct season, and it's marked by, I mean, where I live right now, there's a beautiful castle park. I look out to Odawara Castle, and I just love it how every month they're planting new flowers. Like right now, the hydrangeas are out. We've got the lilies. We had the sakura in spring, followed by the wisteria, all these sorts of things. So these markers of the seasons as they roll through. But in terms of visiting Japan, I think depending what you want to do, if you're a winter person, obviously I love the mountains, the side of things. So obviously from sort of late December through till end of March, it's great for skiing, that sort of thing. But even if you're not into winter sports or anything, Japan is great in winter because especially on the eastern seaboard, you get crisp, clear days, a lot of blue sky. It's not sub-zero temperatures or anything, but it's just really quite clear weather, and you get snow-capped mountains. Great time to if you really want to see Mount Fuji with its glory and snow-capped. That sort of winter months or early spring is a good time to visit. And then spring is, well, lots of it's also peak season, so just be mindful that there's a lot of congestion for travel around, especially over the sakura season. And it's actually quite hard to say, okay, I want to come to see the sakura or the cherry blossoms because we just don't really know when they're going to bloom. So, it's usually like it's a 2 week window that sort of slides forward and back a bit. Usually sort of late March to sort of early to mid May, so April. And then, through April, May, early June, beautiful, very settled weather typically. Once we hit June, we actually just had a very early typhoon roll through last week, which is a bit unusual because usually that starts more around July. When I say typhoon, it's usually just a lot of wind, a lot of rain. They're not sort of too, but every now and then you get a big one that will come up and cause a bit of disruption. But for the most part, it's just it's a bit of rainy, sort of bad weather, well, rough weather rather. And then, yeah, July, August, very, very hot, humid, 90% humidity. Temps in the cities is, especially Kyoto. Kyoto is sort of in a valley, sort of the sort of a heat inversion, sort of keeps the heat in there. Can get up to like 30. Sorry, I'm in metric, so Celsius. I think it's well over 100 though in Fahrenheit, so sort of 35 plus temperatures. And then, yeah, through September, October, November. Those again, that's the next sort of nice fall colors, fall season to visit Japan as well. So, in a nutshell, great time to visit is typically from I'd say April to June, and then summer is great if you want to. I'd say go down if you want to hike up in the Alpine zones, or maybe up in the Hokkaido area, up North Island, or hang out down in the islands. But being in the cities, that sort of the highlight, the golden route of Japan, it's probably best to avoid the sort of summer months. And then again, winter, if you love to go out skiing or in the snow country, even if you're not a skier, like going out because there's just so much snow. Staying in a ryokan that's in the outdoor bars with big snow, sitting out there watching the snow come down, having the great food that's available, snowshoe hikes, all that sort of activity. It's also a really nice way to experience Japan and a little less busy over the winter months if you're outside of the ski areas. So yeah, hopefully that sort of creates the if you're looking at the annual calendar of when to visit Japan, it can help that gives you a bit of an idea.
Yeah, Shannon, we were talking too about like how far in advance do you need to plan depending on if it's you want to go at high season, either fall or sakura season, but also even if you want to go for skiing, you got to start planning pretty far in advance for skiing in particular, right?
Indeed, yes. Skiing is, especially some of the hot destinations that everyone may have heard of, like Niseko, Hakuba areas, Nozawa Onsen, these sort of places, book out. Capacity is very limited. So yeah, you need to get in early. So at least 6 months, like a year in advance, really. I'd suggest if you really want to get the places you want to stay at, secure good guides, these sorts of things. 6 months to a year is ideal. But generally, I think 6 months, 3 months out is achievable. And we get last minute requests all the time. Sometimes last minute does actually work in your favor because some cancellations open up, but it's a bit risky. It's just if you really want to dial in the exact the places you really want to stay at. Secure the guides that can offer those experiences. Often with meeting artisans, or for example, there's a chap down in Kyushu we love to work with, who's martial arts. He's a swordsman, but he's around the world traveling all the time. So it's just like if we can just get his schedule locked in nice in advance, then we can have that experience with him as well. So yeah, a long lead time for Japan is highly recommended.
Yeah, yeah. Especially now with it being so popular. Yeah. Um, so I'm sure it's not surprising to any of you that Japan is a place where you can really have like an exceptionally rare cultural experience. As I mentioned before, it's unlike anywhere else on the planet, honestly. I remember the first time I went, I actually felt like I was on another planet. I was like, what is this place? Everything was so different. And I realized as I'm talking to a lot of people that, most people are just seeing, Tokyo and Kyoto and all the things to do there, but there's so much more beyond those two big cities. And those two places are amazing. And definitely for first-time visitors, it makes sense to go and check out, spend a few days in Tokyo, spend a few days in Kyoto, and they're very, very different cities too, with a completely different feel. So that's interesting. And also, there is so much of a fuller experience, like into the countryside and seeing the beauty of the country and getting a fuller experience of the way of life and the Japanese culture. And so, um, we kind of wanted to talk about what is beyond Kyoto and Tokyo, or what is known as the Golden Path or the Golden Route, I guess, right? They call it. So Shannon was gonna just pull up a map of Japan because there's 47 prefectures in this small country, and probably most of us know of about three, but there's a vast array of interesting places to go. So
Yeah.
where do you want to take us? Where do you want to show us that you are really loving?
Sure. So can everyone see this map of Japan okay on their screen? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
popping up. Cool. Um, so yeah, typically, I mean, I'd say 99% of people, especially flights out of the US, generally enter via Tokyo. There's two airports in Tokyo, Narita Airport, which is sort of more out here, it's not actually in Tokyo. And then there's Haneda Airport, which is right in Tokyo Harbor, which is down by Kawasaki here. So two entry points. There's also an airport over in Osaka, Kix, Kansai, but I for the most part, a lot of the international flights come out of Europe and Asia, usually more into that airport. Generally, your gateway is going to be into Tokyo. So inevitably, first time in Japan, you want to spend a couple of nights, a couple of days in Tokyo exploring. It's just an amazing city. I lived in the center of the city for about 12 years, and it still blows my mind. I'm actually heading up there later today. So, um, after spending time in Tokyo, let's just talk about what a typical sort of, as you mentioned, golden route sort of tour looks like. This are the highlights of Japan. So after Tokyo, most people jump on the bullet train and they'll head west. And when we say the bullet train, there's this concept that there's just this one bullet train that sort of goes between Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka. Japan has an amazing high-speed rail network of bullet trains that go north, west, out west, and also right down in Kyushu Island as well. You can ride the bullet train all the way up to Hokkaido as well. So there's a really amazing network of high-speed trains. Very access to get around the country is great. So typically, what a golden route itinerary might look like is you might go to Hakone, this beautiful little lake. There's views of Mount Fuji. You can see Mount Fuji here. And then back on the bullet train, you skip all this good stuff in the middle, uh, and then end up in Kyoto. Great, it's the ancient capital, fantastic. It's where Japanese go to feel Japanese. It's such a beautiful, beautiful city. And then Osaka, potentially Osaka for another more of an urban experience. And then maybe stretch the bullet train continues on down through the Western Japan, the Seto Inland Sea area down to Hiroshima, and then maybe fly out of Hiroshima or back. So that's kind of a typical trip that you go online and you look up, a 10-day trip to Japan. Usually those are going to be your highlights. They're going to be Tokyo, Hakone, Kyoto, maybe a little detour. There's places like the Art Islands, which are in the inland sea here, just by Okayama. There's Naoshima, Teshima. It's very popular if you're into contemporary art. Definitely a nice place to visit. Um, Recently, you can see it's a beautiful chain of little islands. It's very calm, being the inland sea. Uh, this is called it's a bit of a mouthful. It's called the Shimanami Kaido, and it goes from Onomichi, and it's a selection of suspension bridges, like as you can see in this image here, and it's a beautiful cycling tour. So it's about 70-kilometer cycling tour or cycling path rather. Easy to self-guide, or there's guided options as well. But lots of cool little boutique accommodations to stay along the way and sort of adventure on your own pace. So this is just giving some ideas about, hey, how you can sort of use that trunk line of the Golden Route and branch out to different areas. Now, if we start thinking, what we like to do typically is everyone, first time to Japan, you're going to have your two anchor points of Tokyo and Kyoto. These are great destinations. If you definitely want to spend some time in these two destinations. If you've got sort of 10 days, and ideally, I'd say, I mean, if people have 2 weeks, it's great. 10 days, because 10 days you're going to use maybe 2 or 3 nights in Tokyo, 2 or 3 nights in Kyoto, and that only really leaves you with sort of 3, 4 extra days to go explore off the beaten track.
Shannon,
So yeah,
sorry to interrupt. I just question for you and Kelly, since you were just there, and Rogers can since he was there as well. Talk about jet lag and what that is, what that's like adjusting to being there, and how you generally like to introduce travelers to experiences in Tokyo and in consideration of how they're feeling in terms of energy and tiredness and all that.
sure. So yeah, coming depends especially coming from the East Coast. It's what is it, like a 13, 14 hour flight to get into Tokyo. And most flights usually arrive in the evening. And we depends on the guest really. Like some people just love to hit the ground running. They're like, all right, we want to go straight in. We're not tired. We're just going to go until we crash. And usually that second day is the crash day. So usually we're like, oh, let's go out on the izakaya, like a food tour, get out there, get some ramen, get into the city, explore. Or potentially if they arrive and they're really tired, check into a nice hotel and then you'll be up at crack of dawn. You're probably up at like 3 a.m. or something, not sleeping so well in that first night, jet lag. So great experience to get up and go and check out the Tsukiji fish markets. Get up nice and early. A guide will meet you, pick you up, take you out. You can even go and see the new facility, which is like get up there at 5 a.m. in the morning, see the tuna auctions if you're into that sort of thing, or get out nice and early. But just keep in mind though, in Tokyo, and people are always surprised. They're like, oh, I just want to get up 7 o'clock and go find a nice cafe. I don't want to bother with the hotel breakfast. I'll just go find a nice cafe and have a coffee at like 7 o'clock in the morning. You'll notice that Tokyo, most businesses don't open until about 10. You might get a Starbucks, but yeah, Japan is slow to rise and but also stays open very late. So shops are open typically from 10 or 11 o'clock, but they're open till like 9, 10 in the evening sometimes. So that's another thing to take into account. So typically that's how we start it, either straight out straight off the go, get straight into it, or just allow one day to adjust. And yeah, it's really case by case.
Kelly, what
Cool.
did you guys do when you were just there? Like, how did you go out right away or?
Well, first of all, I tried Fly Kit, which actually helped quite a bit. I did this as an experiment. I don't know if anyone's heard of Fly Kit, but it's these supplements you take, and you get these special glasses to like cut out the blue light, and it gives you like times to sleep and wake up and all this stuff to help you with jet lag and build up your immunity. And it worked actually pretty well for me. I find, everyone's really different with jet lag, but sometimes it doesn't hit you until the third day because you're just excited and you're all fired up and you just want to get going. And then the third day you crash. But it's always hard to anticipate. But I tend to think, and just the way we plan trips in general is to have like half of a day of activities and then half a day to kind of um, wander and roam or take a nap, to get over your jet lag. So it's not just go, go, go from the minute that you get there, but to like ease you into it, but still get the most out of it. And yeah, I think, it's working with the time zones and recognizing, what time most flights come in and then orienting around that. And like Shannon said, they come in the evening predominantly. So you're mostly just maybe going having a light bite to eat and going to bed if you can on that first night in Tokyo, and then maybe do a half day tour or something like that the next day to orient around Tokyo to figure out maybe where you want to go on subsequent days, and then sprinkle in some really cool different activities and experiences throughout the first few days in Tokyo.
Also, for that first day in Tokyo, we like to put on have a local guide meet you at your hotel in the morning, and not only just show you, just to help you get your bearings, and it's just they'll go over your overall itinerary and sort of like walk you through, just so there's any last minute questions, you just really someone in person you can see on the ground, and they'll give you we've got a little welcome pack and little the IC cards. Because often for Tokyo, the metro system's so great. It's clean, fast, efficient, just to get around. And then the guide will show you how it all works. So it's just kind of like sets a scene. And then you're like, okay, for the rest of the journey, every time you go through the ticket gates, you know how it all works. So, yeah, we've got to collect the ticket and can hang on to it right to the end of the journey, this sorts of things. So that's pretty helpful too. Um, I just wanted to touch on just looking at, again, just since we've got the map on the screen. So, you know, just to help you sort of understand where things sit and sort of different routes we can do for trips, especially if we first visit to Japan, or even if you're returning, if you want to sort of include those two highlights, anchor cities of Kyoto and Tokyo, there's one way. So there's the bullet train that goes down the eastern seaboard, the Tokaido. Also, there's a bullet train that goes up via the mountains through Nagano and Niigata, up through the Japan seaside, through Toyama, Kanazawa, and then back. You can access Kyoto that way. I mean, often we'll do put a trip together where you can do a loop where you're sort of starting in Tokyo, going up through the mountains, having that sort of mountainous alpine experience through the mountains into Kyoto, and then return back through the eastern seaboard, the Pacific Ocean side, through Shizuoka, through the Mount Fuji area, and then back up to Tokyo that way. So just to talk about some of the key sort of areas that maybe a lot of people sort of over will skip, and sometimes when we say off the beaten path, I mean if we zoom right out, I mean Japan is just so much like I love like northern Japan, but it's a hard destination to include in if it's your first time. This is great if you like second or third time you want to really get further afield, northern Japan, Tohoku, or even Hokkaido. This is by the way, this is where Niseko is, this the famous ski destination. So a lot of the powder snow up there. Powder snow everywhere on the Sea of Japan. It's just a big snow powder making machine coming off the Sea of Japan. Or down in Shikoku Island, right down here is amazing as well. The 88 Temple pilgrimage is amazing. And then Kyushu, like the southernmost island. And there's a whole chain of islands that stretch right down. You've got Yakushima, Amami Oshima, my favorite, and then Okinawa. And then right as far as down to Ishigakijima, this is all part of Japan's the Ryukyu Islands that stretch all the way almost as far as Taiwan. So you can sort of see that's why Japan's got such a diverse sort of environment right from the south to the mountains of the north, sort of stretches over that way. So it does look like a small island country. You think, yeah, I've got 2 weeks. I'll just go to Sapporo and I'll go to Fukuoka or I'll do the whole thing. But there's so much. I'd really always suggest just slowing down. Two anchor points at Tokyo and Kyoto, and then go off the little beaten track a bit, so that logistically it makes the flow and the rhythm of the experience a lot more nice. And you're not sort of hopping around, spending so much time and bullet trains everywhere. So yeah, I'll back over to you, Kelly, to because I could ramble on a lot longer.
Yeah. Well, on the trip that we did together, we went to the Izu Peninsula area, if you want to zoom in a little bit
Yeah,
down there. And that's where Shizuoka has, Mount Fuji is in that prefecture, and it's really coastal. There were aspects of it that to me felt a lot like the Pacific Northwest, or even just Central California, Big Sur, the cliffs, and it's absolutely stunning. And a lot of people don't know to travel there or what to travel there for. It's also known for all these tea plantations, and some of the best green tea that's out there in the world comes from Shizuoka. And one of my favorite experiences actually was visiting a tea plantation. It's actually I'm gonna turn your screen off for a second.
sure.
And oh, can you guys see it? No. Hold on. Something weird's happening. Hold on. I don't know what's going on. You're not seeing anything, huh?
No, I was doing that before when we were trying to
Okay.
share screen
Well,
earlier.
we may not be able to show pictures, so sorry about that. But at any rate, this tea plantation experience, it was like, driven in a car with a guide who's talking to me all about, the tea plantations, and then we're going on these windy roads and up these mountains, and you're seeing these tea plantations, and they're like art, honestly, like seeing the rows and the way that they curve, and absolutely beautiful. And then we get to the top of this mountain, and there's this tea plantation up there, and we get to meet the farmer, and he's not at all what I was picturing. I had in my head, some like older man with like a farmer hat of some sort, that's out there in the field with gloves, and there's this guy who's in his 30s who walks up in a tracksuit, and you're like, he's the farmer, and he's got a baseball hat on backwards, and he just spent like 2 hours with us, just answering our questions and walking us through and making the tea and showing us all the different ways that how you steep the different types of teas and how they're made. And really honestly, like the most interesting thing was finding out that all these farms are small and they're family run, and there are no large farms that are owned by like some big company, and they work with these cooperatives, and you're just like amazed that this is a livelihood, and they're so proud of it, and it's hard work, but they take so much pride in it and are so excited to share it with you. And it was just really, really fascinating, like the farming life outside in the countryside, and then to actually taste and drink fresh tea that was from that plantation, it's like, it's heavenly. It's like otherworldly. You're like, wow, it's exquisite. So that was one of my favorite experiences. And then actually, riding the ferry across from one side of Izu Peninsula to the other, and we just happened to catch, Fuji-san on a day when he wasn't being shy, as they like to say, because he's often, Mount Fuji is often covered with clouds, and he was out in full sun.
Just to illustrate
Pretty amazing.
that so people can sort of understand. I don't know if I zoom, you can see this dotted line. This is
Mhm.
the ferry route that it goes across Suruga Bay. And then there's Mount Fuji. So you've just got these beautiful uninterrupted views of the ocean just rolling up Mount Fuji, just coming in the horizon. It's just pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Shizuoka, yeah, biggest Japan's, although it's contested with Kumamoto now as the biggest producer of green tea in Japan.
Hmm.
And the great thing about your experience, Kelly, is that it gets you deep into the producers of the tea and the culture. And there's people are surprised. They think, oh, green tea, it's just green tea, it's dried. But there's so many, there's the slightly roasted, the dark roasted. There's just so many varieties of different tea, different ways to drink it. How hot the water should be. So they'll walk you through all that. It's very educational in that sense. And then the other side, when the whole culture around tea, so the tea ceremony and that sort of thing, if we can provide these sorts of experiences, we can do that in Shizuoka, but Kyoto as well offers those sort of, the more ceremonial type experiences where you've got the tea room and the maybe the sado master. She comes out, she's beautiful kimono, she'll do that ceremony for you. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's very in-depth. And also, I mean, I think everywhere in the world now, matcha, so matcha latte, it's like super popular. And it's a great story because a lot of these small farms are now realizing that there's an amazing new export market. And so you hear these stories, it's like, because green tea is now popular, they're sort of reinvigorating their production because it has been sort of dropping. So
Yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
Well, I'm looking at the time and I'm thinking we might want to talk about two things real quick,
Yeah.
and then maybe we can turn it over to see who's got questions. And if anyone wants to stay for questions past the hour, we'll definitely stick around and happy to do that. Um, I wanted to talk about the whole Ryokan experience because that's something that is so unique and amazing in Japan, but also most often is best experienced out in the countryside and not in the big cities. So, um, Shannon, do you want to talk through what is a Ryokan? What do you experience there? What's different about it? Why do you want to go, essentially?
Yeah. Well, it's a ryokan. I mean, direct translation is like a Japanese inn. There's nothing really like it like outside of Japan. And it's traditionally, I mean, there's various, I mean, a real traditional ryokan, and there's a lot of, modern, more hybrid versions as well now. But traditionally, I mean, Japanese love ryokan for mainly the food and the onsen hot springs. So those are the two biggest factors that they take into consideration. Often the rooms are very austere, as tatami mats on the floor, not much furniture, if any. In fact, we've had guests check into their room. They're like, "Where do we sleep? There's no beds in our room." So, point there is that often you'll have the dinner, and then there's like I think of it like a turn down service. They'll come out and they'll bring the futons out and lay them out on the floor. So that's a very traditional one. A lot of modern ryokans now have nice sort of more Western style beds, a bit higher, so it makes it a little bit more comfortable as well. But if you want to go for the traditional approach, that's really interesting. It is, futons can be quite hard, and Japanese tend to like a firm bed. So yeah, it's always good to understand what your sleeping style is. If you've got any back issues, because that can be a rough night if you're not used to sleeping on a firm futon on the tatami mats. But when you check in, it's obviously usually shoes off at the entrance. Your shoes get taken away. You get given a yukata or like a light cotton like kimono, and you can wear that anywhere inside the ryokan. Ryokans pride themselves on sort of the aesthetics. There might be a car pond, a Japanese garden, and just like enjoy that sort of blend of architecture and nature. You enjoy the hot springs. Many ryokans do have private hot springs, so you can either have the hot spring all to yourself and with you and your family, or to bathe privately. But typically it's a public bathhouse. Think of it like, so men and women segregated, but bathing with naked strangers, as you say. So that's part of it as well. I think that's, it's part of the culture, like that bathing culture in that context in the bathhouse. It's like there's no shame, there's no body shaming or anything. It's just like we're all here to enjoy the bath, the beautiful water. That's a really special part of it. And then, as I mentioned, the food is incredible. So it's a feast not only for the stomach but the eyes. The intricate layout of multi-course kaiseki meal is really outstanding. And there's a lot of food. It comes out very small plates, and you think, oh, this is not going to fill me up. But by the 12th course, 12th serving, you're like, yeah, I'm about full. And rice always comes at the end. So I always tell a guest, if you're feeling full, just let them know you don't need the rice at the end. So there's little things to keep in mind as well. But I typically, it's a quintessential Japanese experience. I really recommend everyone to try staying at a ryokan. But I always suggest like maybe 1 or 2 nights, 2 nights max, because the meals are so heavy. You have also a very high protein, like, deep fried fish, or your rice and miso soup for breakfast. And if you are you like your coffee and your croissant for breakfast, that sort of person, it can, more than 2 days, it can be a little bit, push you outside of your comfort zone a little bit. So, I mean, we often get requests, I want to stay in a ryokan for a week. It's like, I mean, typically Japanese do not stay in ryokans for a week. It's not set up for that. They usually have two alternating menus. So people stay for 1 or 2 nights, and then by the third night, you'll get the same menu again. So it's just when you're planning and thinking about staying in a ryokan 2 nights is kind of a nice time frame, and allows you to get out and explore that region. So use your ryokan as a base, and you can sort of hub and spoke out around that area. Yeah, that's kind of a top of mind sort of what a ryokan and how to experience. Is there anything else you want me to touch on there, Kelly?
No, that's great. I mean,
Mm.
the ryokan that I got to go to in Nagano, which seemed like it was in the middle of the nowhere, driving down this road, and then all of a sudden we just turned onto this small path, and then it was like this magical kingdom just like appeared in front of me. This ryokan built into the mountainside, and it was so magical. You don't want to leave, but also, yeah, the kaiseki meals are incredible, and they're elaborate and exotic and everything. So yeah, they could take 2 to 3 hours actually. So yeah, probably more than 2 nights would be maybe a little too much. But this particular ryokan, I'll never forget it, and it was just so special. And I remember we were walking by, and there was a gardener, and he was, trimming some stuff, and he waved to us and smiled, and we smiled. And then we later learned the next day that that was the owner of the ryokan, and he's, out there in the garden doing it himself. And it's just like, once again, very much the Japanese way. And
And
so very
and
cool.
to that note, most ryokans are family businesses, and some of them have been operating since feudal times. So you'll see they'll give you their business card, and they'll say, "Look, I'm the 13th generation um, general manager of this ryokan, founded in 1655 or whatever." So, there's a lot of history of these ryokans. Obviously, the buildings have been rebuilt and modern, but that whole business has been functioning, operating, handed down through generations. It's quite I think it's quite a testament to um,
Yeah.
how important they are.
Yeah. So this is the last few things that I wanted to share, because this is what really was striking to me on this trip, and planning several trips for other folks this year, is just that um, even if you are a really experienced like planner of your own trips, Japan can definitely trip you up. And it can be, things can get lost in translation, and things are done very differently. And one of the things that stood out to me was that if you use the same like approach that you normally take to plan travel to Japan, you might not get what you expect or what you're thinking. So one of the things that stood out for me is like even reading reviews. Like, we're used to reading reviews to find out if something's good or not. And in Japan, like if something gets a 4.1 out of 5, that is the equivalent of maybe like a 4.7, probably anywhere else. it's sort of table stakes for a hotel or a restaurant or whatever it might be to be very high quality. So that's just considered like almost mediocre. And then if you were to give a 5-star review to a place, it would almost be offensive because that then infers that they don't have room to improve and to become even more excellent, which is really important to them. So, you read these reviews and if something is getting, really high over a 4.5, it's most likely foreigners are doing the reviewing. And then you're probably going to an over touristed spot, that's not maybe as, I mean, it might be very, very good, but there are so many places that you would never find and would be very hidden that we happen to know about. And you might read the review and go, well, I don't want to stay at a place that's only a 4.1 review. But trust me, it's exquisite and amazing and wonderful. But the website might have terrible pictures and you can't even figure out how to book on there or you can't even book it or it's not in English. Like they are not trying to sell you on their place. There's a humility and it's about it being discovered. Actually, their excellence and the quality of the experience is about being discovered instead of them selling it to you. So it can be very hard to figure out where to go, what to do, and what's the right choice.
Kelly, I know we're running short on time,
Yeah.
but you share the one story about like, was it a restaurant or a place you stayed and like you couldn't get in there, you had to book it like 2 years in advance and they totally undersold it. You know what I'm talking about.
I think you might be referring to Cine Onsen in terms of
Oh.
took 3 years to get.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so the
Yeah.
Ryokan I was
Yeah.
mentioning before, I was talking to Shannon on the day we were leaving, and on the day I did not want to leave because I loved it there so much, and I said, I tried to look up information about this place before I came here, and I couldn't find anything. And he's like, "Oh, there's no website, right?" You're like, "Oh, they don't have a website." And I'm like, "What?" So how does somebie
Yeah.
book a room here? And he's like, well, you have to know the phone number and call, and they might not actually speak English. And even then, you got to know someone. And it's taken me 3 years,
Yeah.
to get them to accept bookings from me. And I was like, wow, okay, this place is not trying to attract people. It's all word of mouth and they reserve it for, previous clients. And I mean, we were the only Westerners there. It was all Japanese, but I felt so lucky to have been there. It was like an honor, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I mean, especially out in the rural areas, that's a typical case. And it's not just the ryokans, the restaurants, the language barrier is real. That's why, we always suggest going with a guide. And, even like as a travel operator here in Japan, and this is what I love about Japan, it can be frustrating. Like we sometimes have to send faxes. If we want to book taxi, we've got to send a fax, and so Japan you think of it like this modern society, and it is. It's cutting edge technology in some areas, and other areas is like, hey, the fax is good. Don't replace what ain't broke. So it's like that's
Yeah.
it's just like dealing with this like this fragmented way of communication sometimes. So it's just case in point that a lot of places like, and that's where we can bring value is that we've gone out there, we meet these people face to face, we build these relationships. Like the tea plantation or the wasabi farm. I love cycling. I ride around. I just say hello, strike up a conversation, and we build a relationship because it's not a tourism product. It's not like they're on TripAdvisor or Viator and they're like, you can book a half day tour. It's not like that. They're farmers. They're doing their day job, and they're like, oh, Shannon, yeah, sure. If you want to bring some guests, I'm happy to show them around and tell them what they do, tell them, my lifestyle and that sort of thing. So I think that's kind of what makes it interesting to get off the beaten track.
Yeah. So with that, we did Shannon and I put together like what we would call a signature journey to give you a taste or kind of a flavor for what maybe I think it's a 13-day, 12-night trip, and you can actually find it on our website at explore-x or explore-x.com/Japan. And of course, every trip we do is totally customized, but this just gives you a sense of the kind of trip that we can plan and just to even give you some ideas of what's possible. And it's a
Also in
nice
the chat.
blend.
It's in
Yeah,
the chat.
you can see it in the chat. So we will go to questions, but for those who can't stay, if you're sitting here thinking, I want to do this, but I don't know where to start, or I've been trying to plan this and, I'm getting frustrated or it's kind of falling apart, please reach out to me. I'd love to chat with you or even just share ideas and find out what you're thinking and help in any way that I can. So you can email me at either travel at explore-x.com or Kelly at explorex.com. And yeah, I would love to chat with you about it. Japan is like my favorite new subject of to talk to people about. Um, so with that, are there any questions? And you can put your question in the chat or you can just unmute and, you know, throw it out there.
I'll just chime in real quick on something Michael asked about earlier. And I found, like Shannon had said, that day two was the worst for me. I was able to go with Kelly, lucky enough to tag along on that trip, and a real honor to work with Shannon and his team and this wonderful guy named Taka. That was really helpful for us. And I didn't want to leave, and I wish I had more days. But I would also recommend kind of what Shannon to kind of reflect what he was saying, that if you have extra days to get out of the cities, I feel like I saw what Japan was like inside of Tokyo and Kyoto. It was amazing, but I really felt like I got to see what Japan is once I got out of the cities and really got to see these amazing places that have been in business for so long, and these people that really care about what they're doing. It's just absolutely amazing. So I just wanted to share that.
Thanks, Rogers. Cheers.
Yeah. Catherine, are you waving goodbye or do you have a question? Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. Allison, are you trying to unmute? No. Okay. Thanks for coming. Yeah. Sarah, is there anything you're curious about?
Oh, for me, it's always the wildlife aspect. Like, I want to see a tanuki.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about again, it's about balancing, I think, for Corey and myself. I definitely get jet lag really bad. So we have to very much prepare for that. I'm a day one jet lag person, especially, coming from the East Coast and landing. I always need like we make it an actual joke, my midday nap. And I need like a solid 4 hours. So typically Corey needs somewhere to go and somewhere to be and like a job or a task and just to leave me be. Um, so I think it's just again like he's very much go go go. I'm very much like take me to the hot springs, take me to the spa. We'll kind of reconvene at a later time and then go out into the city and explore. So, and again, it's just kind of thinking it gets my wheels turning and it gets me really inspired to try to find some sort of like balanced itinerary for us that keeps in mind his experiences and trying not to like repeat and rehash all the things that he's done. Though he would be quite accommodating, but for me to experience things, because he also enjoys the experience of seeing things through my eyes for the first time. So that also does, he does find joy in that, but it's just trying again to like balance all and see what kind of itinerary, how many weeks would we go? Because again, we like the obscurity of it. I would definitely like to go to some of those like southern islands that are less explored. So if you have any, recommendations for anything that's like really off the path, we're here for it for sure.
Oh, we love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You get real excited about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what you would say, Shannon, but what I would say is that Japan is so infinitely diverse and interesting that it almost doesn't
Yeah.
matter how many times you go, it's going to be different and you can experience something different. And you could go back and experience something that you experienced before and it will feel different. And,
Mm.
and because you're different coming to
Hmm.
it later as
Hmm.
well. So having that combination of maybe revisiting some things that Corey's done,
Yeah.
it's still going to feel different for him and he'll get to
Oh,
see
I
you
bet.
experience it for the first time. I mean, I've been 5 times and obviously Shannon, you've lived there for 30 years. I think it still surprises you on a regular
Yeah.
basis.
Yeah, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's always
Yeah.
always a new discovery, nowhere where I go. So yeah, it's what keeps me here for sure.
The
Mm,
worst part about traveling to Japan is you don't want to leave when it's over. That's the
mm,
hardest part is coming home, but
mm,
you get to take with you all that you experience and bring it back into your daily life. And
Yeah.
so, and
But
Shannon also, I just want to say, if you were looking to do a longer trip, he
Yeah.
is the guy who knows everything about if you want to do some more like active, stuff out in nature that's
Yeah.
a little more, down to earth and you're hiking or you're biking or there's just so many things to do that is beyond just the cultural stuff
Right.
the big cities. So you could really have a really cool combination over several weeks of those types of
mm.
experiences.
Yeah,
Yeah.
any special interests, but like we work with bird watching for wildlife,
Yeah.
multi-day cycling tours, hiking tours, these sorts of things, alpine hikes, hut to hut, that sort of stuff as well as
Yeah.
part of
Michael's pushed me to the edge of my physical capabilities before.
what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about.
it.
Um,
Yeah.
I want to add one thing here. I think I've learned this from Kelly, and historically, we get on a call, you and I chat, or you and Corey and I chat.
Yeah.
But Kelly's gotten, and I've learned this from her, like you'll chat together, and then she'll break you guys off, and she'll chat with you for an hour, and she'll chat with Corey for an hour and a half, or whatever it is, right? And to really, because there's like so many things that she can glean from that, or we can glean from those
Yeah.
individual conversations. And she's just a master at doing that and then
Oh,
constructing.
that's weird.
What happened?
Huh.
I don't know. My smoke detectors are going off and I don't know why.
Oh,
Well,
couldn't hear anything over here.
oh,
Huh.
Do you smell anything?
No,
well, we
but
can
there's
chat
a
later.
really bad storm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I'll wrap it up by just saying like it's proven to be a really effective way to say, all right, if you like this and he likes that, Kelly can. And then again, I'm learning this from her, right? I've been doing it longer, but she's taught me a lot and how to do that so that you both get exactly what you want, and it is what you're talking about. So certainly
Yeah.
doable when the time comes.
Yeah.
Get out in the mountains, Sarah. Go to the mountains.
It's not hard. What,
Oh,
70% of
like
Japan
that.
is mountains, so
Yeah.
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 hard to miss.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much. And drop me a line if you have any questions, or just want to chat about it any further. Be great.
Yeah, for sure. Thank all you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good to see you. Shannon, thank you. Kelly, always thank you. Rogers, good to actually meet you.
Yeah, same, Michael. I appreciate it. Kelly's
Yeah.
been really
Sarah, this is
enjoying
my husband,
the whole
Rogers. He got
journey.
to come on the trip with me in case you're
Yeah.
wondering who this dude is.
Who is this guy? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, thanks again. Thank you, Shannon. Enjoy your Thursday since it's already Thursday over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.